Nice intro, I like it. Good morning, Interactors. How's everybody doing? Great. We're doing good, we're excited. Today's gonna be a lot of fun, I gotta tell you. So my name is Mike Ayalon. I am the immediate past president of the Rotary Club in Lebanon, Tennessee. Lebanon, if you're not familiar, is about 20 minutes east of Nashville. And I speak on college campuses every single week. I just came back from California 2 weeks ago. The week before that, Pennsylvania. Next week, I'm going to be in Chicago, Illinois. And I love speaking to students. That is my favorite thing to do in the world. That's all I do. And many college campuses ask me to come and talk about leadership because in my career, I've helped to build 3 different companies. And in that time, one of those companies went from startup to over $25 million in annual sales. And I have to tell you, it was a lot of fun. We opened up offices in New York, in Amsterdam, in Bangalore, India, and it was a lot of fun. We made a lot of money, and we also gave back to our community. That was really important to me as a Rotarian. That's what I do, and that's what all of you do. So the whole point of this speech here this morning is to talk about leadership. So that way everybody in this room can grow your Interact Club and ultimately be successful. I want everybody in this room to be successful after you graduate from high school and you go on and you start building your careers. I know that everybody in this room is going to continue to do the good work that you do in your community. And so you might be thinking to yourself right about now, am I really a leader? Is that something that I do? And for everybody in this room, I think the answer is yes. So many of you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm an officer in my Interact Club. Maybe you are the president, maybe you're the vice president, maybe you're the secretary, maybe you're the treasurer. And so these all have leadership responsibilities. But I also believe that everybody in this room is a leader. And what's interesting about this word leadership and leaders is that officers and leaders are not necessarily the same thing. So if we look at our Interact Clubs, we might be thinking that some of the best leaders in our Interact Club is actually not an officer at all. And so I believe that's true for many of you. And also, we have some officers that maybe are not acting like leaders all the time as well. So just because you're an officer doesn't necessarily mean that you're a leader, but you all could be leaders. And I'm going to show you how. Because ultimately, some of the most important people in our Interact Clubs are actually not elected leaders at all. And I want you to think about your Interact Club. Think about who you respect in your club as a leader. It might be an officer, or it just might be a regular member that really shows the way, that models the right behavior for everybody in the club. So when we talk about leadership for your Interact Club, I want to make sure that all of you have a clear vision about where it is that you want to go. Where do you want to take this club? What is it that you want to do? How do you want to make a difference in your community? And ultimately, as a leader, your job is to share that vision, whatever that is, with all of the members that you have in your Interact Club. And that means that you're going to have to provide some information to all of them, some knowledge, so that way everybody in the club knows what it is that we need to do on a daily basis. And it comes as no surprise to all of you that everybody in your Interact Club has different ideas in terms of where they want to take this club. So you as the leader need to be able to balance all of that, to be able to listen to all of your Interact members, and then ultimately take all this information and make sure they're all working together. Now, there is a guy out there by the name Simon Sinek, and he has a fantastic video that everybody in this room can watch on YouTube, maybe on your ride home, since some of you have a long ride back. Pull up Simon Sinek's video, and it's called Start With Why. And it's a fantastic video because it really makes us think about Interact and what it is that we do, right? So why does Interact exist? How does Interact do the great work that we do in our communities? And ultimately, what does Interact do? But what Simon Sinek is saying is that when we're describing Interact to other members in our community, we need to start with the why. Because when we talk about Interact with other students, what we normally do is something like this. It says, well, Interact does great service projects. We develop leadership skills, we serve our community, and build friendships. Would you like to join us? That's typically what it sounds like when we're talking to other students about what it is that we do as interactors. But what Simon Sinek is saying is to basically just reverse the order in which we talk about Interact. So instead of talking about and starting with the service projects, we go like this. We help rising leaders just like you develop new skills. We're different because we develop leadership, we serve our community, and we build friendships. Everybody helps. We just happen to do great service projects. You want to join us? That sounds a lot better because now we're starting with why. We're starting with why we do what we do. This is a really, really important point. And so the question is, how do great leaders lead? How do we build big companies to then go back and serve our communities well? The answer is that great leaders start with why. They tell people what it is that they believe. If we think about Martin Luther King, for example, he had a dream, right? It was what he believed. He didn't say, I have a plan. He said, I believe. And that was a very, very powerful statement when he said that, and he said that he had a dream. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. And ultimately, in the summer of 1963, when Martin Luther King was speaking, there was no invitations that were sent out to everybody to come and hear Dr. King speak. But somehow, back in that day, before cell phones were invented or anything like that, 250,000 people came out to hear what Dr. Martin Luther King wanted to say. And these are the types of people who inspire us because he started with what he believes. So really, when you go back to your communities and you talk about how much fun you had here this weekend, make sure you start with what you believe and what it is that we as interactors believe. Then get to what we do and how we do it. But start with what you believe. That's what people want to be around. They wanted to follow him because he had some great ideas. Now, leadership, we all kind of know what a leader looks like, even though maybe we don't think about it all of the time. We know that leaders are honest. That's very important. We also know that our leaders listen to us. So a good leader will take into account how we're feeling about where we want to go, as well as our Interact Club. And also leaders do what they say they're going to do. So if we commit to doing at least 2 community service projects per year, we have to actually go out and do it. If we don't, all of our members are looking at us and saying, hey, how come we're not really doing what interactors are supposed to do? And good leaders follow the rules. We know that there are rules out there, so it's important that all of us follow those rules at all times. This is what good leaders do. So you need to ask yourself, am I doing all of these things? Not just now, but also as you go on through school and you start building your career, all of these things are important. The best leaders who go out and they're the most successful, the ones that give back to their communities, they're doing all of these things. Now, everybody in this room has different personalities. Everybody in this room has different needs and skills, and that's a good thing. So if you want to be a good leader, you have to personalize your management style. So that means if you know that somebody needs a pick-me-up, then you need to make sure that you're cheering them on this morning and saying, listen, I know you're a little bit tired, but we can do this. And then maybe there's somebody else in the club that woke up this morning and couldn't wait to get started. And so how do we leverage that energy as well? So you have to personalize your message to all the different people that are in your club because everybody is different. So we can't manage them all the same. Ultimately, you need to be creative as a club. So there are going to be various problems that all of us are going to encounter in our club. And sometimes you're going to also have to take some risks in terms of solving those problems, maybe in your community. And so we want to make sure we're as creative as possible when thinking about the problems that are in our community and how we can solve them. And there really is no bad idea. So when we're brainstorming different ways that we can help our community, they're all good ideas. Let's record all of them, and then let's choose from a whole bunch of different options. And we have to guide and motivate our members all the time. So we might have members that are maybe feeling lazy this morning. It's up to us as good leaders to say, hey, we need you today. Today is going to be an important day. We're going to learn a lot of information that we can take back to our Interact Club. So we're going to need to continue to motivate all the people that are in our club. And we have to be a role model. As leaders, the other people in our club are going to be looking to us to say, how do we act when we're in these meetings? How do we take notes? How do we bring back this great information to our Interact Club to make sure that we're really successful? We have to role model the way for the other club members to follow in our path. Now, Albert Einstein had a really, really great quote. He said, "Example isn't another way to teach, it's the only way to teach." So remember that we have to be good examples for our Interact Club, for our younger brothers and sisters and cousins and other people that look up to us in our community. And the only way to do that is ultimately by example. Now, how do you make decisions as a leader? If you're the president of your Interact Club or even just a member in your club, ultimately you're going to have to make some decisions. And something that I learned throughout my career is that I have to make decisions, but they weren't always the right decisions. Most of the time, they were pretty good. But I didn't make the right decision all the time. There are times that I made the wrong decision, and that's okay. While you're in school, this is the time for you to make some decisions. Sometimes it's going to be wrong, but that's okay. This is a learning time for you. Nobody ever makes the right decision all the time. So don't put pressure on yourself to say, I have to be right 100% of the time. It's just not realistic. We all make mistakes. We're all human. Now, leaders make decisions based on a lot of information that they're getting. So you just have to do your best, but make a decision. It's important that you actually make a decision. Sometimes where leaders get into trouble is that they don't make a decision. They postpone making a decision, and they just make this thing go on forever. And sometimes, especially if you have a bad situation, it's not going to get better with time. Okay? So the quicker you make a decision with all the information that you have, the better. It might not be a perfect decision, but make that decision and move forward with all the information that you have at the time. Now, there are many times I made decisions and I look back at it and I said, man, I really made a mistake here. And sometimes I don't have all the information, and that's why I made a bad decision. That's okay. I learn from it and I don't repeat those mistakes. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, how do I keep all of my Interact members motivated all the time? I hear this a lot within student organizations, that there's just no motivation, people don't always want to help out. And I think the first thing is that you need to know what everybody in your club wants. So when you get back to your club, when you come home, make sure that you meet with all of your members and ask them, what is it that you want out of this Interact Club? What does success look like for you? And somebody should be writing down the answers from all the students to say, this is what success looks like. This is what we want in our Interact Club. Because that way, if you know what all your members want, then you can keep them motivated all throughout the year. You can say, hey, when we talked about what it is that you want from this Interact Club, you told me that you wanted this and this and this. So help us. And lead by example, and make sure you keep that positive attitude. Okay, that's really, really important when you're motivating other people. Because if you have, as a leader, don't have that positive attitude, ultimately they're not going to follow you. So you want to make sure you maintain that positive attitude throughout. Here are some common leadership mistakes. I see from time to time that people make mistakes, and one of them is trying to do everything yourself. So if you're like me, and I think a lot of you in this room are just like me, you feel like you need to do everything because if you give it to somebody else to do, they're going to mess it up. Right? And so I would say to you, it's a really important skill for all of you to learn how to delegate, how to give work to other people in your club and let them prove that they can do it. And you're going to have to follow up with them and make sure that, yes, they are actually doing what it is they need to be doing, but don't try to do everything yourself. It's an important skill to learn how to delegate. You also have to learn how to communicate well with your club. So does everybody in the club know where it is that we're going? What it is that we're doing, what our goals are over the next month, over the next semester, over the next year, where do we want to be as a club, and making sure everybody knows where we're going. Also, don't just look at the goal. If we say that we want to do a minimum of 2 service projects, you also have to think about how are we going to get those service projects done? What are those tactical steps that we need to take in order to make sure this project gets done? Some of you are what we call micromanagers, right? Just making sure that you're staying on top of every little thing. Some of you are hanging back and not really managing the process at all. So make sure that you're somewhere in the middle, right? You don't want to be overbearing and constantly telling people what to do all the time, but at the same time, you don't want to be all the way back and not ensuring that the goals get met. Make sure that you're motivating and rewarding all of your members. You have members that want recognition. So if they go out and they do a great job in the community for a particular project, make sure that you recognize them in front of the club so that way, hey, they're getting awards and people feel like, hey, they did a great job. That will make other people want to lead as well. So you want to recognize your members for the little things that they do and also the big projects as well. Make sure you ask your members for their opinions in terms of where they want this club to go, and make sure that you make it fun. You want everybody to have a chance, an opportunity to lead your club into the future, but you got to make it fun. Everybody in this room wants to have fun. And how do you identify future leaders? You might be thinking to yourself, well, I am a leader in my Interact Club, but how do I know who the future leaders are going to be? Because we're not going to be around forever. We're going to move on. We're going to maybe go to college, maybe start a job, maybe join a Rotary Club. So how do we make sure that our Interact Club goes on? And your important task is to make sure you identify who the next leader is going to be to take your place. That's part of your job. So you need to make sure that you're teaching new leaders on how to be president, treasurer, vice president, secretary. Somebody needs to show them how to do those positions. You need to build their skills. So there might be a teacher in your school that can help them build some skills. Maybe they don't feel comfortable talking in front of a room of people. So we can get them some classes, maybe in public speaking or something like that, to make sure that they feel confident in talking to the entire club. This right here is a fantastic leadership conference. I love the programming that I'm seeing. I'm loving the energy that exists here. So we need to make sure, how do we bring more Interact members to these types of conferences? And we need to make sure that we're giving all of our members more and more opportunities. Right? We need to make sure that we're assigning jobs and responsibilities to all of our members at all times. That's really important because everybody wants to feel like they're a part of our club, like they're helping to move us forward. Everyone wants to feel like they're important. So we need to make sure we're giving them those jobs to make them shine. Now, I also want you to think in your mind, who is the next generation? So in your mind, you should be picturing maybe younger brothers, younger sisters, cousins, other people in your community that can join us. So for me, it's these two right here. It's Rachel, she's 11 years old, Jacob, he's 13 years old, and they want to be part of your Interact Club. So the question is, are we going to continue the good work so that way Rachel and Jacob have the opportunity to join us? Because we want them to do good work as well. But in your mind, I want you to be thinking about younger brothers, sisters, cousins, other people that are coming through, maybe starting to enter middle school, that are going to be the future leaders. This is why we do what we do. But it's important that you have a picture of who that is for you, so that way you can continue the great work that you do. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. What? You did a good job?
Great job.
High five?
Great job.
Cool.
So,